Hi, I'm Dennis with TeraFlex. Whatever. Today we're going to go through some maintenance on these drive lines. If you've still got one of these under your Jeep, it's still the stock drive line, and there's really no maintenance involved with them. If you've lifted your Jeep, you need to make sure that you have a couple of things set right on them, like pinion angles. You need to make sure there isn't too much of an angle on these or it will eat those joints alive. These drive lines actually have some really kind of cool features to them. By using that CV style, similar to what you have in your car in your front wheel drives, that type of a joint in there, it really makes them run smooth. The bad news is they're very, very thin walled. So if you're out wheeling, the analogy I like to use, it's just like we used to stand on a pop can and then it holds you, and then as soon as you touch the two sides, boom, it just collapses. That's what you got going on here. We can run these on the rear a lot more often than we can on the front. On the front we have a real brake. Do you want to maybe go get that drive line off or something? Really? There's your 1/2 inch and there's an 8mm. That's already got one of these on it. So you're going to take those little bolts out there. Those are 8mm 12 points. On the other end, they're going to be 1/2 inch on those yokes. There it is. Thank you. Okay. So where was I? This drive line is going to be a little bit tougher to balance. It's going to have a smaller tube on it, which makes them harder to balance, just that because of that diameter. The other thing that's happening is when you go to this drive line, you've probably also changed your gears out. If you changed out your gears, you're going to have a difference in the speed of this drive line. If you had 321s in it when you started, this drive line is going to rotate 3.21 times each time the tire goes around once. When we swap them out and put 538s in them, now that drive line's spinning 5.38 times every time that wheel goes around once. So we've almost effectively doubled that drive line speed. Same thing holds true if you're running your car down the road at 30 miles an hour, there's no tire vibration. You take it up to 80, now you can feel the vibration. So they're really hard to get them balanced. And that's why when TeraFlex sends their drive lines out, we have our yokes balanced with the drive line. So you've got little marks on there where they've coded this so that you know the rotation. So when you put the yoke on, you need to put the drive line back on with those two indexing marks, and they're on both ends. This end, with the joint in it, the CV joint in it, that's going to be the end at the transfer case. And the reason you want to do that is because that's going to have the biggest breakover, especially on that front drive line. You have a pretty nasty breakover on those. All right, let's get this out of the way and we'll look at some of the components. We better do a quick gen check. Yeah, it looks like she's got the front drive line loose and resting on the skid plate. It actually works great as a support for the drive line while she works fervently on that rear joint. All right, inside of the CV joint itself, there's a little centering pin that's in there. There's a spring in there, and then inside of that yoke right here, there's some little roller bearings in there. This is the one that when you're driving, you hear that squeak, squeak. It's that guy right there. So we need to make sure that we get grease into it. So they provided us with some small little grease ports there. It's a different style Zerk. You have to use the needle to get in there, and you push the ball in, and then you can put the grease in. We'll put that on the grease gun and show you how that works. But when you do these drive lines, there's actually a total of 5 Zerks on them. You got one in the joint, one on the yoke, then one in each of these joints, and then again the one that shows up in there. Now the problem is you can't even get at that fitting in there. If this thing is in the Jeep, you can barely get at the grease fittings on the U-joints. You just can't get the end of it in there. So the best thing to do, and really the only way to do it, is to pull that drive line out, get it on a bench, so you can get in there and hit all those grease fittings. You can watch the grease come out and you know you've got it greased. So let's do it that way. We got, oh, wow, the drive line, finally. All right, nice. She even kept the caps on it. When you pull these off, be really careful you don't drop these caps, because when all those little rollers fall over the floor, it's really disappointing. So make sure you keep a hold of those. All right, so this drive line, we're going to make sure that everything feels tight on them. And just move the H-block a little bit. It feels pretty tight. We can look at both these. They feel good. The caps move. This rotates all right. So it actually feels like everything's in one piece. We just need to lube it up. So we'll start out by using the grease gun. With this one, you want to wipe the dirt off them. If they're all full of dirt, you don't want to be pumping all that junk inside your bearings. So we'll just kind of wipe them up. Put that on there. Okay, we're just going to hit it a couple of times. We just want to see a little bit ooze out of each one of the caps. Let's go one more. Perfect. Okay, see how it eased? Just a little bit out of each one of them just came out. So we know that we got enough grease in each one. We've spun them already, so we know they're good. Okay, look at this one. It kind of lifted the cap up a little bit on this one. So I'll have to push that back down. We're never going to get back in the yoke if we don't. So we got plenty of grease in that one. All right, let's hit this one. This one's for your slip yoke. It's going to put it up inside of all the splines here. Go ahead. Just go after it a couple of times. These really take quite a bit more grease to get this one. All of our drive lines, they have a cap in here that is supposed to hold the grease from squirting out by your U-joint. It should force it up to this end of it. Just do it quick. Boom, boom, boom. There you go. All right, that should be good. What will happen if you get too much, it'll start pushing the yoke out, and then you'll have trouble getting it back in. All right, let's come over on this end. Okay, you see a problem with these? Yeah. This has got the different style. This is going to take a needle. So I'll just wipe those out, and you can see that that's going to take a needle in this one. A lot of them will have the standard grease zerk in them, but either way, we're going to have to use the needle when we go into that center one anyway. So let's just swap this end out. There's a couple of styles that they'll do on these needles. This one just threads on. I kind of like these because it gives you a good positive fit right there, so you don't have to hold the other one on while you're doing it. Okay, so let's get that one first. You got it. Just push it in, and you got it. And just watch for grease. See it? That one's coming out. Looks like we got a little there. That one's here. Let's hit it one more time. That one looks like it hasn't got any. Okay, it's good. Good. Now we got the same drill on this one. Okay, good. Very nice. And then the last one, we're going to have to get that little fitting that we showed on there so that we get grease up inside of that needle bearing. That's the important one. It's the one that never gets greased. So we'll go ahead and, if you move it around in there, you'll be able to find that little grease fitting there. See it? Okay. All right, nice. This is just a dust boot that goes around the outside of it. Let's get that plug back out of there. That's just a dust boot that goes around there, so it's not a real tight seal, so it's okay to let the grease come out of there. We want to get some grease. When you take a hard bend on this, it pretty much exposes that ball anyway. And then we're also going to get it to go up in the inside of it. So that took it pretty nice. We can, yeah, we can see that we got some grease down in there, so it looks pretty good. Feels good. Still got a little spring tension. You want to be able to feel some spring tension on that CV. It should almost hold itself up, so you have to drop it down. That's that little spring in there that's giving you the pressure there. When they start getting soft, that joint's getting tired. All right, that all feels pretty good. It's all lubed up. We're ready to put it back in, and you're good to go. Use the rear skid plate again to support the drive line while you install the rear U-joint into the yoke. Now make sure that the U-joint caps are seated into that yoke. The new grease will sometimes force the caps out. The caps need to be inside of those indexing tabs on the yoke. Tighten the U-bolts evenly. There should be an equal amount of thread showing past the nut on both ends of the U-bolt when you're done. Now it's fine to use a little Loctite if you'd like. Once the rear of the drive line is installed and supported, it's much easier to work with that front CV joint. Use some Loctite on all 4 bolts and reinstall them. Now these bolts need to be snug. You're only using an 8mm end wrench, so over-torquing shouldn't really be an issue.